Hello everybody and welcome to the 4th Age Total War Dominion of Men. This is a Middle-earth focused mod set in the 4th Age after the events of the War of the Ring, for those of you who are new to the channel. This is a mod for Rome Total War Barbarian Invasion, the original game, not the remaster, and it's a mod that I've been involved with for some time as a writer on the development team. But this is the product of work from many people over multiple decades of time. The mod is now in a complete state. I'll have some links to where you can download it yourself if you're interested. But what I wanted to do, it's been a little while since I've played this, and it's been about 6 months since I've played anything to do with a 3D Total War game. I've been doing some medieval Total War, which has been fantastic, but it will be nice to jump in to some of this again. And I thought, what better way to ease myself gently into the experience of 4th Age Total War than to fire up a campaign as, Harondor, one of the easy factions, right? Now, I do have to say, this faction has a reputation, I guess, and has done for a very long time, of being one of the harder factions on the map. I'm not totally sure about that. I mean, it is hard, right? But like everything, there's a way to do it, and once you know the way to do it, it's just a matter of doing those things, right? The challenge for me will be, because it's been such a long time since I've been playing this particular game and this mod, that I'm a little rusty. So this has the potential to be fairly entertaining if you like watching people struggle. But nevertheless, I think probably a faction like North Rune is harder. Far Harad can be very tricky if you get off to a bad start. Even something like Dorwinion, which I will give a shot one of these days, also has some real difficulty. Harandor, if you get a good start, you can be in a great position. But we'll see how this is going to go. This is rated as a Laughing at Live Dragons faction. And that means they are estimated to be one of the on the top tier of difficulty, right? So again, we'll see how this goes. Let's read the faction description here, which I can't remember if I wrote or not, but we'll just see. Lying between Gondor and Harad and claimed by both peoples, the lands of Harondor have never known much stability and peace. These largely treeless plains between the rivers Poros and Harnan are home to plainsfolk and city dwellers, both groups often claiming mixed descent from Haradrim and men of Gondor. To secure its position between greater powers, the Principality will need to claim lands beyond its rivers, either striking south toward Umbar or sailing north to capture important cities on Gondor's coast. Harondor's terrain is suitable for cavalry, and its climate encourages many of its warriors, with the exception of some soldiers following the traditions of the well-armed Dunedain to the north, to go into battle lightly clad. The people of the Principality of Harondor follow the ways of darkness, though having been influenced by the reunited kingdom, they may turn to the ways of the West. And so, yeah, this is an interesting faction, sort of at the crossroads, right? Because you've got the large, very large empire of Harad to your south. Harad also begins play with this island of Tol Falas in the mouth of the Anduin River, which is right near our starting position, and in fact, a settlement we're going to need to get for victory. So between, you've got Harad to your south, and you've got the Reunited Kingdom, or the Dunedain more broadly, to your north. Now, the Dunedain are experiencing a bit of a civil war. Again, this mod is focused on the 4th Age, and very little is known about this time. One of the things that Tolkien speculated and explored this idea in a short story called The New Shadow, which you can find in The Peoples of Middle-earth. A story that he never finished, but nevertheless a story which plays with the idea that the end of Sauron would not be the end of evil in Middle-earth, right? That this may manifest in more sinister cults devoted to this shadow/satanic worship. And so that is the idea that this mod has run with. The idea that you've got, on the one hand, the ways of the West espoused by the ancestors, or the descendants, rather, of Elessar. And on the other hand, also descendants of Elessar, but going in the other direction, you've got this kingdom which we called in the mod the Kingdom of Adunabar, which I can't remember what that name means. Something west, something. Someone who knows Sindar better than I will, no doubt, chime in with the meaning of that kingdom's name. But at any rate, this is a faction which can be the cultic faction. They do not need to be. You can go ways of the West with these guys. One of these days I'll do a campaign showing how that can look too. But regardless, for Harondor's purposes, you've got these two factions right to your north. and that puts you in a very difficult position because you have no easy rebel places to conquer. With that said, though, let's just jump into the campaign. We've got Decidedly Tookish as the campaign difficulty, which corresponds to medium. This, by the way, I strongly recommend for every single playthrough because it gives you the chance to actually use diplomacy a little bit. You don't really, I mean, you certainly make life harder on yourself if you want to go for very hard, very hard. But to me, that's just a lot less fun. The AI is ridiculously aggressive. I think they get economy buffs on the higher campaign difficulties, and so battles are less decisive as a result, right? Like if you win a battle against a dangerous big stack, there's like 10 more coming, right? So medium difficulty just seems more reasonable. If you just hold yourself back the tiniest bit and restrain yourself from blitzing at the outset, you're going to have a pretty enjoyable campaign. In terms of battle difficulty, also the mod is designed for bull roaring, which is equivalent to hard. And again, there's nothing preventing you from going laughing at live dragons here. This would probably have less of an impact on your campaign than changing the campaign difficulty. But I prefer bull roaring. That's just what I'm used to. Similarly, there is recommended that you go for large unit size on this mod, at least this version of the mod, because the population mechanics in Rome Total War, of course, are very important, and they do form a crucial part of this mod in terms of maintaining enough population to recruit men to maintain your armies and so on. So I don't like to go any larger than this. However, there is a patch for the mod. If you must have those huge unit sizes, there's a patch that addresses that, whereby not only can you have those big units, but the population levels in the provinces will reflect that, so that you won't be handicapping yourself, right, by choosing those huge sizes. So let's jump into the campaign. All right, yes, and we've got a little preview here giving you some background, I guess, to the story of Harondor. During the Fourth Age, the Haradrim in Harondor grew more numerous, though also more influenced by the people of Gondor, many of whom acted as their governors. With the division between Harad and the reunited kingdom resurfacing after so many years, the people of Harondor, bereft of both reunited kingdom overlords and imperial masters, declared independence and established the Principality of Harondor. It remains to be seen how long such independence can last. Caught between Harad and the reunited kingdom, Harondor can also look north to see the recent success of the kingdom of Adunabar. Ithilion's fall to cultic forces is a troubling portent to the principality, as the only crossing over the Poros leads directly into South Ithilien. Adunabar's role in Harondor's future is uncertain, but one Dunedainic kingdom must soon rule all the land on both sides of the Anduin. And when that day comes, the victor's eye will surely turn south to look with envy upon lands once held by lords of Gondor. And that is indeed a big part of the campaign. Now, these little intro videos panning over stills of the units kind of showcase some of the units both that you are going to be fielding and probably facing. This one giving a pretty large clue that we're going to be having to deal with Harad for the most part to the south. So let's look at our new territories here. We start off with 5. We've got Harongod, which is essentially our capital, which is very well built up, already capable of allowing us to train that signature unit, Harandor Armsmen. This is a very good unit. Reasonable morale doesn't sound that great, but it's quite good in this mod. We've also got such fantastic units as the Swords of Harad, which is a unit that I hate to fight against, but when they're on my side, you cannot deny that they are extremely useful. We've also got Harandor Footmen, which is a bit different. So technically, in terms of culture, Harandor is a Haradrian culture faction. There are 3 of these. There's Harandor, there is the Empire of Harad to our south, and then there is Far Harad, which is another principality to which we are allied at the beginning of the game. Most of those factions get a footman unit, or all of them do rather, but ours is much more Dunedainic. It looks a lot like the Dunedain militia that Adunabar and the Reunited Kingdom can train. So much better defense, armor, stuff like that. That's good. On the downside, that armor and training comes at a high upkeep and training cost. So these are not going to be our cheap garrison units. No, that duty is going to fall most likely to the Harondor skirmishers. 90 soldiers a unit, 70 upkeep a unit, so less than 1 gold per man. quite a good deal, and so a couple of these units can hold down a city pretty well. They can even throw javelins, although as you can tell, lack of armor, lack of shield means they're not going to stand for very long in battle. However, I think, in the early game, Harondor is not a faction that you're going to want to stand in battle very much, right? You're going to have to be very careful to choose those engagements when you form an actual battle line and hold tight. For the most part, we're going to be hitting and running, doing flanking, skirmishing away, that type of thing. Other notable units here, well, I guess, these guys are going to be really important for us. Plainsmen mounted skirmishers. Essentially, these guys on horses, but for a little more than double the upkeep cost. Nevertheless, a really solid unit, and better in a lot of ways than the infantry, because they've got a decent charge. I mean, their charge bonus is not great, but the fact is that in an actual battle situation, they wield... Let's see, do they have lances actually? I think they have only maybe daggers as a weapon, but they seem to do much better than their stats would indicate. So you get like 4 or 8 of these guys in an army, and you can, with a lot of micromanagement, pull off some really impressive victories. So these light units are going to be very important early on. We don't have a lot of long-range stuff. It's interesting to see this. At least in this part of the world, our first archer unit, I think, is tier 3. So it's a while before you get your basic foot archers. Archers of Harad, very, very good all-around unit. I think sometimes they get a little shade because they're right next to the Reunited Kingdom, and those guys have long bows, right? They're sort of known for it. Archers of Harad, though, are very, very good in their own right. They've got a good defense, a nice little hybrid unit. The only trick, I guess, with them is, let's say, 2 seasons to train, depending on what kind of governor you have in the settlement. I think the faction leader eventually may bring this down to 1. We'll see. So it's not quite as easy to replace these guys, but they're quite decent. And then, of course, our lancers are probably going to be really the key. A lot of Harondor is about using your cavalry well, and while you do have some really good infantry stuff, your cavalry, like these guys, are going to be the ones who kill and do the decisive blow at the battle. So it's really, really relying on your cav, which can be very expensive, as you can see. Well, actually, 270 is not that bad. Let's take a look at our money now. We see that we're going to be projected to make over 2,000 a season here, which is not bad, but we are going to be shortly digging into that. In terms of other overview stuff, our objectives here are pretty straightforward. We need to get 30 provinces, including all of our starting 5, as well as 2 others, Harlorn and Umbar City. Right, so this is obviously the big one, and this is your big clue that what you should be doing early in the game is going south, not north. Right, one reason to go south is because, as I've said, you are a Haradrian faction in terms of your culture, so it's just going to be easier to hold these territories. Now, they are widespread, they are maybe not so rich, at least early on, as some of these Gondorian settlements may appear to be, but these are going to give you, I think, a little less, in the long run, whereas taking over Umbar is going to give you a nice, very solid, defensible, wealthy corner of the map, essentially, with a lot of sea trade, and you can defend it by having, a couple of settlements over here that can sort of hold down any threat from further east. So early on, we're going to want to make sure we hit Harad. We want to try to stave off with diplomacy, however, the factions to the north. We do have an ally, as we mentioned. We've got Far Harad. This is, for what it's worth, we have trade with them, but we are physically incapable of trading with them currently because we have no shared borders, no sea trade with them. They're an inland faction. We also have military access, and so do they. Again, I doubt that that's going to play a role, but you may occasionally see Far Harad start to do well in these campaigns. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Our alliance may last about as long as we stay apart from one another, and as soon as we start sharing borders, then you have to start worrying about the AI. But in terms of our enemies, let's see, I don't think they're at war with anybody yet. Okay, yes, Harad is at war with the Reunited Kingdom. The Reunited Kingdom is at war with a bunch of its own factions, including Adunabar. So there's already, in a way, wars all around us, and we have to choose how we're going to get involved. Now, again, we could, arguably, make an ally of the Reunited Kingdom, right, because they're at war with Harad, go up here and start conquering into Ithilien. But you know the big danger with that, right? Once we start conquering territory near another faction, that faction is going to start to recognize us as a threat and want to take that territory for itself. I'd rather not be at war with the Reunited Kingdom for a little while. So let's bring our ships into the port here just to be kind of safe. And let's see if we can at least get like some trade. Maybe we can sell some trade rights. This is in a Dunabar emissary, so let's ask for cash. We share a border with them. 2,500. That seems high, so they may not go for it. All right, they'll give 1320. You know what? I'm not going to soak you guys for too much because you're probably going to need it. Like, I'm a little concerned about how they're going to do. The other thing you can do here is you could sell map information. I typically don't do that as a rule. I don't want the AI. I don't know if this means anything, but I feel like I've read that the AI then knows where your cities are and is more likely to attack you as a result. I don't know. It seems like the AI probably already knows where your cities are, but regardless. We just made about 1,000 there, and we could train another emissary just about anywhere else, but I think we may want to spend, every place where we can train military stuff. I think that's what we're going to want to do early on. Now we do begin play with a couple of other agents. We've got a scout here, which is what the mod calls a spy, and he is going to be rather important for one purpose early in the campaign, and that is tracking this general. This is a Haradrian army led by Tanari, so we'll remember that name because he has got Mumakil. This is the only unit of Mumakil that Harad starts with, and it may be the only unit of Mumakil that you see in the campaign, right? But we want to make sure that this, we want to make sure that if this moves off to the east, we let it move off to the east, right? Let me put it this way. We don't have a lot of control over where this army goes. We don't have a way to... Actually, no, that's a Haradrian diplomat. But we don't have a way to get an alliance with them early on, although I wonder if we could have on turn 1 instead gone there. That would have been interesting. Well, so maybe we'll get hit with Rad Harnan. Maybe one thing we could have done is immediately get an alliance with Harad, waited for them to move off, and then backstab them. Well, that didn't happen, so I guess we'll see how this goes. But we want to keep our spy near this army and see when they go off and get themselves into trouble in the east, we'll know that it's the right time to move south. Meantime, though, let's get our armies together because we've got a lot of troops already trained, and they're costing us a lot of money just sitting in the settlements. So as we mentioned, we also want to focus on the right units for garrison. So that's Harondor skirmishers here for the most part, and everybody else can get out of the city. We also want to think about our family members and who's going to be a good governor. In terms of our family tree, we've got a few different subcultures and sub-factions available to Harondor. Plainsman is one of the mixed bags. You know, they all are. All of the subcultures in the mod have pros and cons. In this one, the bonus of 5% trade income and cavalry command is offset by a 5% penalty or an increase to construction costs, and that does hurt. But it's nothing that can't be overcome if you've got a decent governor in other ways. Unfortunately, he's not. He's a poor governor, and he doesn't have a lot of other traits that are going to affect construction costs, at least as far as I can tell. He's also unintelligent, which means he's unlikely to improve as a governor. So given that he's a competent commander, I am inclined to take him out of the settlement. That's going to increase the amount of money we're making out of Haradland. And we'll start moving him in this direction. Along the way, we're going to see we do have a rogue here. This is what the mod calls assassins. Unfortunately, he's perhaps more a grocer than a burglar. This one eyeball subterfuge assassin here. We'll use him as a scout, basically. And we want to keep him near settlements. He can destroy buildings inside settlements, do some sabotage. but for the most part, we will use him as eyes. We're not going to necessarily try to kill characters with him. Okay, the other thing that we want to do, or at least I want to do, is lower the tax rate, because that will increase the authority of your faction leader. Authority in this mod is kind of like influence in Rome Total War, or even in Medieval Total War. That's kind of what it's modeled after. So this is, this is an interesting trait to work up, and one of the ways you can increase that is by making sure all of your settlements have low taxes, trying to win territory, trying to keep money in your treasury. So you'll notice I'm going to be constantly checking my finances to make sure I'm not overspending my seasonal profits. But at any rate, let's see if we've got a better governor here. Okay, this guy is promising. He's competent. He's extravagant, which is also not great for construction costs, but is good for trade. And he is not a plainsman. He is a man of Gondorian descent. This man's ancestors were from Gondor, the land beyond the mighty Anduin. Folk claiming such ancestry often have a respect for law and tradition, and are sworn foes of the Haradrim, though they have little skill with commanding cavalry. So he's got +1 command versus Haradrim, but that is negated if he's leading an all-cav army, so you want to make sure these guys have a lot of infantry. +2 to law, so that is going to be good as we start to conquer territory and have to deal with unrest and influence, mismanagement. As you move far away from your settlement's capital, you're going to notice that some of your income is being eaten up by mismanagement. That's just distance to capital penalty stuff. So there's not a lot we can do about that, but people who have a law bonus can counteract that issue. So he may actually be someone we want to move somewhere else. I mean, he's okay. He's not a bad governor in terms of his other stats. He is intelligent, so theoretically we could leave him here and he could grow into his role. But if we don't have a lot of other commanders, we might want to bring him down someplace where he can govern a settlement like, or somewhere else. Let's take a look at our faction leader, though. Governor Harun of Central Harondor. He's, of course, governing the settlement, the capital of Harangond. And he is competent. He is a competent governor as well as a competent commander, and he is from a third group, the city dwellers. This man's ancestors dwelt in the cities of Harondor, often fought over by the great powers of Gondor and Harad. Defending their homes and wealth is important to these people, but their efficiency at collecting taxes is resented by many of the lower classes. So, good command when defending a settlement, good tax collection, but decreased public order. So this is a good guy, actually, to leave in a city and just enjoy a little bit of extra tax increase. So I think that's what we'll do with him. We'll keep him here. We'll keep taxes low. And then the other two. Who else do we have? I'm still looking for a really nice... Okay, here we go. Inspired governor. Beautiful. Unfortunately, this guy is both an inspired governor and an expert commander. Now, inspired is better than expert. So I think I want to leave him in this role. The other thing is, I think I rate governors more valuable than commanders in a way. You can, for the most part, by using tactics, right, and using your units well, you can make up for some of the shortcomings that a bad governor might have through his traits. It's harder to do that with settlements, of course, because you can't directly control that stuff. So I'm really tempted to leave him here, especially since Harman is likely to be, well, it is a border settlement, right? So it's good to have a family member in a city in case that is attacked. He's also a man of Gondorian descent, which is going to be, good for law, I guess. Now, I guess because of that, we might want to put him down south against Harad, but probably doesn't matter that much. Unfortunately, he's seasoned. We're not going to have him for very long, which means, in other words, this is an age trait, which gives you some indication of roughly how old the character is. You'll notice that there's no age indicated in any of the character portraits for this mod, and that's because, of course, we're using Rome Total War, and we're playing a mod with elves, dwarves, long-lived Dunedain, and short-lived regular people. So because of that, we can't really have people who live hundreds or thousands of years, so we've sort of disguised it by giving them variable age traits depending on what race they belong to. But in any case, this guy is getting old, so we'll just keep him here for now. We'll give this local governance, which is another thing you can increase. You can do to increase the authority of your faction leader and increase the opinion of liege trait, which we'll look at shortly. When you do local governance, though, it looks like you've gotten rid of all these things, but you can actually plan it. So you go for a growth policy that's basically lower taxes, and untick these boxes, and then you can control what you're building and what you're training. But let's leave that for the moment and look at our last family member here, the Prince's heir. Competent governor, but a poor commander. That's unfortunate. He's unintelligent. He's also lazy. He's just bad all around. I mean, he's not the worst, right? Poor is just one rank down from competent. So he could be a fine governor, honestly. I guess the problem is we don't have too many governors at all. So let's see. Do we want this guy? Yeah, I think we want him to be in the field. We'll take this guy because he's competent. And we will take everybody except the skirmishers out of the city. We will lower the taxes to 100%. Public order. And we'll just check tax rates everywhere. And because we're not going to have a governor here, we'll lower the tax rate. Okay. And we'll take out... We may want to leave everybody here, even though this is a very expensive unit. Geez, actually, I think we're going to want them in the south. We're going to need to address that later. Let's bring them down here. I don't want them to get smacked by the Mumakil army. But we do want to bring them in that direction, because we may need them all. Now, we do have some mercenaries available. These guys are very expensive, though. 480 in upkeep, over 1,000 to recruit. And so I tend not to get them. Certainly not on this first turn. They're still going to be around on turn 2. So, save yourself a bit of cash by being patient if you think you really need them. But let's take all of these units. And yeah, we'll put them up with this army. So now we've got a full stack here, just about, if we combine all these units. Alright, now that has left us with a projected profit of 2269. And now we could build some stuff. We can do some training, we can do some building. Okay, right. Now, do I want to leave this army here? Theoretically, what could happen, and what sometimes does happen, is Radharnan is immediately attacked by this army of Harad, even though we're not at war. And because immediately attacked, I mean immediately assaulted, because Mumakil can batter down walls. I think I will risk it. This guy is not that good. Don't be fooled by these command stars. This is just a visual thing. This represents, as it says here on the tooltip, this represents his rank, right? So if you're viewing this in the pre-battle screen, like we've initiated a battle, we're looking at both sides, then that would indicate his actual skill. But here on the campaign map, this is just telling you who's going to take over in the event that this guy is in an army with another family member. So this guy has like 9 command stars. This guy has none. This guy has none, right? So the idea is the family members, this guy has 10. So the family members with the faction leader having precedence, those are the ones who are going to take over command. This does not mean anything to do with the skill of this governor or as a general, right? Like for that, you're going to have to look at the traits. But at any rate, I think we will hold off from moving these guys out of Radharnan. We're going to leave them inside, hopefully to do damage to this army if it does attack. And if it does attack, I'm also going to want maybe some more skirmishers, actually. So we'll train you. I think I'll train another skirmisher up there. Another one up here. And here we can't train anything. So I'm almost tempted to build control posts so we can just get some basic stuff. But on the other hand, this is just about as safe as we can be. So it might be better to go for some cav here. Some light cav, plainsman mounted skirmishers. Only one turn to recruit. I think next turn we'll be able to train these guys for just a single season and start some of these discounts start kicking in on turn 2. So we've got that all going. Do we want to build anything? We've only got 1,100 left. And yeah, I think we could go for this, the Estates and Farmlands Charter. This is just going to get us set up to build, you know, like vineyards and stuff later on. So I think we will go with that. The only thing to do now is end the turn and see, thankfully, that Haradrian army has moved off into the east. Very, very good. Okay, and we did actually lose some cash last season because sometimes that the projected profits are not entirely accurate, especially on that first turn. Turn 1, stuff hasn't kicked in yet. The actual traits of your characters have not begun to play a role. So let's move our armies together. I could bring this army down into the settlement right now. I'm a little concerned if Harad would view that as a bit of a threat and wheel around. Let's just double check that they didn't split off the elephants. Nope, this is a very, very basic army. Footmen of Harad, plainsmen mounted skirmishers, regular foot skirmishers. Let's keep our spy tailing this army. And I suspect they're going to be here on the following season. Alright, we don't want to forget to add this unit of cavalry, and these guys can join in too. Let's see, so just check out our bad success rate. This is our one and only assassin. He's got a 6% chance to kill this emissary. Now, this emissary is pretty decent, so it's not likely that we're going to do that. Again, we're going to use these guys pretty much just to move around the map and uncover stuff. One thing we could begin doing is separating out the cavalry into a separate small stack. That's something I do usually like to do. This is a plainsman character. He gets +1 command when commanding cavalry. So we could send the infantry with Arbazan. This is our Gondorian man. Yep, man of Gondorian descent. And we want to actually make sure that character has few riders in his army. Which he does currently. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not that many. But let's see. I've got 1 horseman of the Harnan. Yeah, let's eventually we're going to add some of those guys to our cav army, and I want to have like a light cav army that's largely, okay, we're still looking at 2 seasons to train these guys, but basically a light cav army that pretty much exists to move quickly through enemy territory, to draw off enemy soldiers just to get to places fast. And so that'll be the plan for Muntasir of Haradland. And so actually we've got a couple of units here we could throw in right now. And it might be nice to do that before these guys get too close. Let's give it another turn because they can be inside the settlement in case they're attacked. That can maybe dissuade the enemy from attacking. But we can keep training them here. And pretty soon we're going to get some plainsmen. Now we are losing cash. So that is part of the problem with Harondor. You've got to start training before you can start conquering. Okay, but Harad is now at war with Rohan. That's simply because of the way the alliances are set up in this mod. So Rohan and the Reunited Kingdom, as you can imagine, are allies, right? That's a very strong point of lore. And so they will follow each other into wars. Alright, let's just uncover the settlements here. We've got Minas Ithil still in the hands of Adunabar with a big, fearsome cultic army, Shadow Guard, Shadow Riders, Catapults, Swords of the Shadow, all sorts of shadow stuff. And minus honor here, still in the hands of the Reunited Kingdom, looking like a much smaller force. And it looks like Harandros. Trying to remember who started with that. Was this an Adunabar fortress at the beginning, or was it Reunited Kingdom? Well, we're going to keep our emissary moving around in the region, and eventually we're going to get some, I guess, trade with the Reunited Kingdom as well. So yeah, let's end the season. Okay, we've got a plainsman, but he's only got the bad of being a plainsman. So notice how it says at the bottom of this tooltip, 5% increase to construction costs. If it wasn't for that, because he's not getting the good stuff, right? The movement points, I believe it is, the cavalry command bonus. So he doesn't get those good points. So I think we're going to, although he is energetic and intelligent, but he's short in stature, so that's bad for hit points. We're going to hold off. If we're going to need another family member to be in the field, we want them to have some survivability. Okay, all of our family members, well, only a couple of them, are getting governor traits, and because this guy, I sort of wanted to take him out, I guess, toying with the idea, but we'll leave him in there for now, I guess. He's the heir. I guess we could put it on local governance, but he's going to be pretty happy with things regardless. But let's take a look at that, by the way, just so I can point out that trait. This is it's currently supportive. So it's right underneath you've got your competent governor, you've got your commander traits, how good of a commander is this guy. Then you've got the race trait, right? What man, elf, dwarf, whatever. Followed by 4 traits regarding to subculture, subfaction, alignment / religion, and then age. And then underneath that, you've got this triple of lazy, or the opposite of lazy, energetic, I guess, unintelligent versus intelligent, charismatic versus uncharismatic, and any combination of thereof. Underneath that is going to be your opinion of liege. And every character is going to have one of these. This guy is supportive, but this guy, I'm going to guess, will not be. Let's take a look. Yeah, he's faithless. So faithless is bad. Supportive doesn't have any particular bonuses or penalties. It's sort of neutral. He's a supportive follower of the king, right? But if you are lower than that, you're going to have a trait like faithless or insolent or whatever. And that's going to start giving you penalties. Those penalties are very pronounced if you are a governor, right? Minus whatever trade income, tax collection, land tax collection. But it also has an impact for generals because it affects the morale. Men are not going to like to fight under a faithless general. So we've got -2 to morale to indicate that. This guy, let's see, what is he? He's insolent. Yep, -2 troop morale as well, a little bit worse on the income front. So that is unfortunate. And what also is unfortunate is we've got this army just marching straight up through our territory. Fortunately, this army is going somewhere else. I think I have a pretty good idea of where they're going. They are going over to Parchereb, which is a settlement right about here, I guess. Yeah, something like that. And so they're going to go over there. It's a rebel settlement. They're probably going to take it. And that's maybe the only rebel settlement near Harad. No, there's 1 or 2 others out here. So they're going to try to deal with those first, typically. And so that is nice. That gives you a bit of breathing room. But let's see. Do we now need to think about maintaining a force around here? I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about that. I'm going to assemble my my cavalry guys. And so I think I can now safely take all the cav out of Rad Harnan. And, you know, I'm kind of thinking I want to let this guy get way over to the east before I start moving my my big army in a threatening manner. So let's see. We've got these 3 of the plainsmen mounted skirmishers and 2 of the horsemen of the Harnan. Let's go for one more. Let's go for 2 more Horsemen of the Harden. That gives us 4 there. And that gives us a 4th Plainsman Mounted Skirmisher. So we've got... Yep, that's 9 cav units. Pretty decent. Let's keep going with these light cav. And we're still losing cash. We're going to have to start moving pretty soon, but I want to give them one more turn before I move and cross their territory. Let's uncover another city over here. Yep, we've got Akis Anaban, another Haradrian settlement. Only a noble and 1 other unit inside. Looks like a tiny unit. And is also looking very undefended. Now, is typically one of my first choices for targets for when I go to war with Harad. Another is this one down here. I think it's Calenhad. It's been a little while. But this, you can tell by the banner, this is the location of a chief city. We have one, of course. This is Harngand. Umbar is another one down here. You can tell by that banner. And there's a few others across the map. This is Dol Amroth, right? Minus Honor is a chief city. Emin Arnen, minus Ithil. So there's quite a few to our north. Those chief cities have some advantages. One of them is that you can build unrestrictedly. All your other cities, you're going to have to choose a particular policy, which is going to, restrict you to certain options. So that is going to be a consideration. But is right here. It's right on the way. It's easy to break into. So if we can get this early on, I'm going to try to go for it. So we've got our training all queued up. Let's see if we can do some trade with the Reunited Kingdom. Currently, we're projected to make negative 1449. Let's see if we can change that with a trade deal. Well, we're going to screw it up a little bit because we're going to be asking them for cash. And we might not be able to get any cash from them, actually. So if we offer trade rights, let's see if they'll pay us anything. They may pay us nothing. Okay, they want to give us an alliance. They want to give us map information. Sure. We could counterattack or counter offer for more cash. Because I don't think I need their map. How about you give me, I don't know, 5,000? This seems quite absurd. But they take it. All right, so we got 5 grand. We probably could have gotten away with even a little more there, but 5,000, that's very nice. Now, of course, that's going to skew our predicted finances, so we're not going to, because the 5,000 we just got is factored in here. But hopefully that trade is going to start making a difference, because currently, we're trading with Harad. That's pretty nice. But if we can suddenly get a better deal by selling our stuff to Pelargir, maybe that'll be nice. Okay, so we're seeing the Reunited Kingdom blockading a port of Harad's here at Harlorn. Now, because this is one of our objectives, the temptation here is very strong to just go for it early. It does not even have a wall. You've got ships. You've got enough men to take it. Why not? Well, one reason is it might be a tougher battle than you expect. In the beginning, there's a family member here. I think that's him. The other thing is, Harad has a hard time holding on to this sometimes, as you can tell by the rebellion icon here, so they may lose this to a rebellion anyway. And the third reason is, this is a target for the Reunited Kingdom. They're going to want this. If you take it early, they're going to attack you for it. So just read the writing on the wall, like read the room, and just leave that for a while. Go south, help the Reunited Kingdom fight Harad early on, carve out some territory that you can hold, and then, they'll attack you. They'll betray us at some point. But we can deal with that later. Okay, so we've got our alliance with the Reunited Kingdom. Let's now see if we can maybe sell our alliance with Rohan. Now, one of the things about this is that sometimes you'll find guys get sort of stuck behind a city. Like this one, of course, minus honor, a beautiful campaign model. But it sort of interferes with the agent we're trying to select. So if you just right-click the agent tab, there they are. So you can just click him, and we can now move him where we want him. So let's move him over towards Rohan. Okay, they're not here yet. They're not here yet. They will be, though, I imagine. Rohan typically, well, I guess it depends on how... Each campaign is different. But Rohan can do very well because of Dunabar. This is their westernmost outpost. But let's see if we can get an alliance. And let's ask for 5,000 too. I mean, they might not want to give it to us. Okay, they'll give 590. They want trade. I mean, we can't trade with them, so this doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's ask for half as much. They'll give 1630. Yeah, sure. I guess I won't nickel and dime with you all that much. So we talked about the leader's influence having an impact on the game. In terms of that opinion of liege trait, right? So we're just uncovering the settlements here. One of the ways you can increase that influence rating is by lowering the taxes everywhere, right? Another way is by, or by improving the opinion of liege trait is by checking the local governance tab, managing your finances. But another way is diplomacy. So getting a bunch of allies is going to help our faction leader's authority. So currently he's got 5. That's not great, but it could be worse. So as this increases, we're going to see these elements, these opinion of liege traits, get better. So insolent is going to go up to something else. Faithless is going to go up to insolent. You know, it's all going to be kind of decent. Okay. And season. And yeah, I'm sort of getting the feeling that they may want to attack us. Just a random feeling that I'm getting. So that's very frustrating because I want to take this army and do stuff with it. Both of these armies. I don't want to have them waiting around, the north. But I guess what we can do, if we're moving into Haradrian territory anyway, there's Parchereb. It's farther than I thought. That's kind of good. I want this elephant army to get wiped out, right? Ideally. Go to Parchereb and get slaughtered. I'm worried that if I attack or if I attack this army, then this army is going to turn around and hit me. All right, so here's what I'll do. I'll train a unit of Harondor footmen. That'll at least kind of help match what they've got. I'm also going to train... Let's see. A cav unit that is trained here could get there right now. Now, partly that's based on the traits of the governor inside the settlement. Right? If he suddenly gets bad movement point traits, men who are in Harngon suddenly may not be able to move this far. But I think it's pretty safe to say we can have... Oh, here we go. Now we've got 1 season training. So it's really tempting now to go with a unit like this. But I kind of feel like I need the cav. But I'm going to go with the archers anyway. Archers are really useful, especially against Harad. And let's just keep going with plainsmen and mounted skirmishers. Actually, no. It's because this is also a nice little unit. It's actually a big unit, 64 men. That's the largest cav unit we have in terms of men. And the upkeep is 200. It's kind of high, but it's okay. Powerful charge, fast moving. This can be a really nice unit just to have. So we'll kind of mix and match. And I do want to wait for this army to get settled before I take any hostile moves. And we are still losing 1161. Okay, so trade rights didn't actually change all that much for us. We are trading with Dol Amroth, I guess. Well, also we keep training stuff, right? So that's a factor too. And over here, I can just barely see that they've got another army moving east. Okay, they want to trade with us. Tell you what, I will trade with you for 10,000 Mirian. Okay. Okay, fine. 5,000. Okay, I'm going to just X out of this because I don't want to just neutrally trade with them. Are they going to attack? Are they going to attack? No, they didn't. All right. That is very interesting. So one of the things that I don't know how accurate this is at all, but one theory that I've begun to develop is that if you just refuse any interaction with an AI faction, trade rights, map information, alliance, they are less likely to strike you first. So if you just don't trade with them, if you just don't exchange maps, you don't do any deals, then they're a little more cautious. They're a little wary of you, like they don't know what to expect. Now, I don't know, again, if that's accurate at all, but sometimes it seems to be the case. Let's move down here. Okay, we're blocked because this army of Rohan is sitting on the bridge, not attacking a Dunabar. Fair enough. Okay, we've got a coming of age. Faran of Central Harondor. And we've got the attuned governor trait for both of our governors, or two of them at any rate, who are inside the settlement. That gives lots of bonuses, so it's worth getting governors that are decent, leaving them in the settlement for a while, and they will just get better at their job. So where is our new faction? Heir, I guess. Okay. Competent governor, competent commander, city dweller, so he must be the son of Harun. Energetic, intelligent. Okay, unwise, but that's okay. That's something we can overcome. It might be worthwhile keeping him in Harngond so that we have, another governed settlement, especially since this one's so important to us. All right, speaking of that, do we want to go ahead and bite the bullet? We've got 42,000. Now, that is gradually diminishing, but do I want to go ahead and do something like tribal grants? It's going to give all kinds of bonuses, extra experience, tax, all kinds of income. Yep, it's going to be over 200 regular. It's going to also help population growth, which is less of a concern, arguably. I don't know, that's like half of our treasury. And 200 is not going to overcome the deficit we're in now. Then again, the deficit we're in now can only really be overcome by conquering. All right, we'll compromise. We'll do this. Tribal moot. Still going to give us about 200, but it costs like a quarter. So that's going to get us down a little bit, but I think that's worth it. Okay, this army's moving away. We'll see. Like, are they going to go up to Gondor? Right, that may be their goal, which is kind of entertaining. So now we can get, I guess, both of these units down here. And let's take you. And both of you. And we're waiting. They're besieging Parchereb, which is interesting. They could just assault it immediately because they've got an elephant, but they're waiting. And they're facing these like 7 or so units of Parchereb tribesmen. Very, very interesting unit. Two-handed spear and bow. So, you know, they're probably going to take it, right? They're going to take the settlement. It's just a question of, are they going to lose a bunch of elephants in the process? And unfortunately, I can't see if the elephants are still there, but I'm quite certain that they are. Okay, we trained an emissary like a million years ago here. Completely forgot about it. Let's now take him out, and we'll bring him over to just spy around Harad and see what they're doing. We should also check the diplomacy to see if Far Harad is at war, and they're not. Okay, so that's good, I guess. Khan is doing nothing. Okay, so everyone's just chilling out. We'll keep a spy up here just to visually check. And in fact, we can train spies or scouts from the beginning, so let's do that. All right, one more season. All right, Parchereb's still under siege. They might just be waiting. Oh, okay, there's the elephants. They are building rams, so there will be an assault. Okay, so it looks like the way this is written, the top name is the attacker, I believe. And so they have attacked Harad, which means there's probably a siege happening down here. I think this is where Harad's westernmost settlement is. They've got another settlement here, and they've got another one here. That's their capital with the blue banner. So probably not this one. All right. So there is that war. Now we can help our ally in a couple of ways. Okay, we've got our scout. Let's see. I thought to take him north, but I think now it's going to be more important for us to have the intelligence in the south. Yeah, pretty much right down here is Harad's first settlement. So we'll take him down. You can see there's lots of armies clustering small stacks right around here. We could destroy them in detail, probably with our cav army. Again, before I make that move, I want to get to I want to see that the elephant army kind of crushed. Let's see, we're going to try to find a representative of Harad somewhere. Okay, only losing 499. So that's actually quite good. It might be worth doing... Oh gosh, look at this though. So 9,000 Mirian to do a tribal moot here, whereas in the governed settlement it was like 5,800, something like that. It just goes to show you how important a good governor can be. Okay, yep, Harun, this is our faction leader, is attuned. Great. That's bringing in more cash for us, but unfortunately we're going to lose him relatively soon. He's just too old. Okay, do we want more troops now? We've got a full stack here because we're going to combine it with these couple of units. We've got only 2 cav. Let's do plainsmen, and then later we'll do another Herodwaith Riders unit. Yeah, tribal grants. Actually, this guy's a better governor in a way. This costs a lot less, or, you know, about 1,000 less. Still, 10,000. That's a third of our treasury. The other good buy, typically, in addition to the tribal grants or any sort of like alignment-related building that does conversion, is farming. It's pretty consistent. So if we were to do this, that'd be another 200, I say. Yeah, 9, 10, 11. Yep, about 200, and it's pretty cheap. 6420. Here, in fact, this would be a really good place to build one if we get this built quickly. We can do farming there. Trade is a little bit harder because it typically has these countervailing issues where it takes away from land tax. So this is going to cost us a little bit of upkeep, actually, about 40 or so. It's going to make us about 80, so, you know, it only makes us around 40 net. So not the best buy. A lot of the stuff here is so well built up currently that I don't really feel the need to go further. There they go. Parcherib is now taken. And we do want to keep our spy around there just to see where those Mumikil might go. They're currently inside the city. We'll leave them right there. Let's get our emissary down to Harad. All right, I think it's over here. Yes. Okay, they took it. This starts as a settlement of Harad. Yeah. So they're all over the place here. All right. Let's see. I guess it's time, right? What are we waiting for? Let's take this army down. We'll park them right on the bridge, or on the crossing. And we will join them with everything else. With 2 heavy infantry. We've got 2 more units we could put in here. I guess we'll go for a skirmisher unit, and yeah, it might be good to have one of these. We've got 4 in this army. I like the symmetry of that, but maybe they're more needed in this balanced army. And I think actually, since we are making aggressive moves, let's let those plainsmen that we just trained in Harandor catch up a little bit later, and we'll move our army down somewhere here. Let's bring the emissary back up just to get a sense of where the armies are. Okay, so they're not here. They're probably in the fog of war. Right there. So let's slowly move out. And let's see, this is a little more than a half stack. I don't know what that is in terms of units, but if we move over towards Akis Anabon, that should draw some of them back towards us. I don't think we can hit this army quite. Let's get onto the hill. Alright. There's going to be our transgression. Empire of Harad, your behavior is offensive. Yada yada. Okay. So we may have a bunch of these armies turn back, but not all of them can reach us. So that's going to be the goal. Draw them away after the army that's on their territory, and then we move the full stack in to take Ur. So hopefully that will work. Let's go for another Herodwaith Riders unit, and we'll gradually feed those guys down into the south. Okay, let's see. We've still got 33. I guess we can't go wrong with another spy, and then we can have... I'm just too stingy to go for it. The other thing I'm thinking of is I'm going to need to be upgrading any of these settlements that I conquer, and I may need to buy mercenaries. So, you know, going for those big purchases is kind of rough. I'm going to hold off too. Rad Harnan feels kind of vulnerable, because of course it's right on the border, but then again, so is this one in northern Harondor. Let's move down with our emissary now that those armies are out of the way. Okay, Minas Honor still held by the Reunited Kingdom. Minas Ithil still held by Adunabar, and Emin Arnin as well. So status quo in the Ithil Vale. Okay. And in Parchereb, interestingly, what do we have here? We've got the settlement. The governor, rather, is holding court in the newly conquered Parchereb, but he is not doing a great job. Peasants in this province are revolting. The army, probably with the elephants, yep, is heading down south. That's great. They're not heading west. I'm not at war with them just yet. So they're heading to fight Far Harad. They're probably going down here. I think I will risk it. Jeez, do I dare risk losing sight of the Mumikil? I don't think I'll be able to see. Okay, there it is. Anerlith. Okay, and it's not under siege yet. Okay. It might almost be good to get another emissary out and about. But actually, the scout's going to be better. That's why we get a scout. He's going to come down here and go to the west. Alright, they did not attack me, but they did assemble a decent little half stack here. Alright, what I'm looking for is a situation where I can quickly take a settlement off their hands. I'm not seeing it just yet. In fact, this army is a little too close for comfort to Ur. I could hit this guy. and then wait for a counterattack. And it would be potentially a pretty big one. See, all of these guys could just about hit me at but maybe I want to risk that. Yeah, how about this? We'll go here. We've got a good army, right? We'll see if this is going to pan out. We'll go ahead. We will attack the people of Harad. Actually, let's see if there's any. No, I'm not seeing any emissaries of Far Harad. My hope was that we could get a little cash out of them by offering them an attack on their enemy, but I guess that's not going to work out. So we'll just, because we can't find an emissary to deal with. So there we go. We're now at war with the Empire of Harad, and they've got wooden walls here. So the only thing that's relevant for us is a ram, and we may as well go with as many as we can build. 6, I guess. That seems plenty. And now we're at war with Harad. I think the first thing I want to do is deal with this army because it's smaller. So we will get a battle this episode, and we'll hit a dude of which is looking pretty manageable. This is a family member, Serpent Black, which is a very nice unit. Long-range missiles, frighten nearby enemy. So it's a horse archer cataphract type. Now they are somewhat vulnerable to missiles, and they're vulnerable to cav charges. They're vulnerable to a lot, actually. But they're still a good unit if used well. And these guys are a big problem. And the swords we will have to watch out for. Alright, a nice open plain for our plainsmen. Let's take a look at it. This is the bodyguard unit of Harondor, which is probably one of the best. Maybe in the game. This is a fantastic unit. The Serpent Black that Harad gets is interesting. It's versatile. It's a little quirky. It's a horse archer cataphract. There's a coolness factor to it. But honestly, these guys, I think, are just better. They're easier to use. They are lancers. They do have swords as a secondary melee weapon, but there's no like fuss, no muss. There's no concern about pesky archers for the most part. These are very heavily armored guys, and they also frighten the nearby enemy. Their lances are going to give them a fantastic impact on the charge. Just a wonderful, wonderful unit. So we're going to probably, I should have been giving some more family members here, but I think we do want to use some of them for governors, right? Okay, so let's kind of just get these guys together. Whoops, we don't want them actually grouped. And same thing here. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. So we're attacking. We want to do a lot of work with our skirmishers and our general, of course, because he's going to be replenishing. We are going to take some hits from the Serpent Black unit here. They are going to hit us with their compound bows for some damage, and we're going to have to worry about these guys charging us down. Of course, we've got our own companies of horsemen to damage them. It looks like they're pretty strong. They've got a lot of little flags here indicating their experience and so on, and other upgrades. Maybe we'll kind of just go real slow with this. But we will go faster with our skirmishers. We don't mind goading them to chase those guys. I think we'll take these guys off skirmish. And we want to watch the swords. Okay. Actually, I will skirmish with you. Alright, everybody back on skirmish actually. Oh, we're gonna get hit good. Actually, no, this is what we're gonna do here. We're gonna hit their Serpent Black. What is that? Footmen of Harad, not a big deal. Where's the swords? The swords are back there. They're not a factor. Okay. We're not going to worry about that. Let's hit the footmen. And how's the bodyguard doing? Yeah, he's done for. Family members gone. The footmen are gone. We can now turn and deal with these horsemen of the Harmon. I think we're going to be just okay with them. Let's push straight on into these swords of Harad and come back to hit the footmen. They're going to probably break. Yep. Very nice. That cab is now gone, and we did take some losses. These Harrowwaith riders took more losses than I would have thought. I definitely lost track of them. But we did very well with our skirmishers, and in a lot of ways they're the more important unit, I think. I mean, these guys are good for just mass, like bodies, right? And we did take some losses with these horsemen of the Harandor, so a little unfortunate there. You know, obviously you're going to take some losses in battles. But, you know, about 40 men. Not too bad, I guess.
Victory is ours, mighty one.
All right, well, that declared our intentions well enough. And now these guys are going to have to decide. Are they going to go back to defend Are they going to go back to hit this army that's loose in their territory? Which, honestly, I'm thinking about heading over towards Calenhad. But the big thing is to keep an eye on the Elephant Army, because that is one that is going to give us a bit more trouble. We do have some more Harrowwaith riders. We can bring our men. I think this is what I want to do. I want to interpose ourselves between this potential reinforcing army. We can make ourselves... Yeah, I think he may want to hit us, right? Make ourselves a nice little spot on this hill. And he could, I guess he could just get around us. But I'm hoping he's going to hit us because we're going to look like a tempting little target. And I'm hoping these guys can't quite reach us in and that we can just attack it in the following season. But I think that's going to be enough for this episode, folks. We've, you know, the first few turns are always this exercise in determining when to strike. I think that's really key with Harondor. And I think maybe if you've tried this faction before and you've had trouble with it, maybe it's the timing, right? Like maybe you were attacking a bit too early. The game does give you a lot of units at the start, and you can do really good stuff with them. But in my experience, you want to make sure that Harad has got their men out kind of away from you so that they have other stuff to worry about before you can become their sole focus. So next episode, we're going to see what Harad is going to do about this. Are they going to deal with our besieging armies? Are they going to swat down our cavalry force in the middle of their territory? Or are they going to keep prosecuting their war against our allies of Far Harad, which we're going to hope to disrupt? I want to keep as many factions alive as I can. Obviously, my survival is going to be paramount here, but Far Harad starts off as an ally, and it's useful to keep them around as another distraction for Harad. So thank you very much for joining me with this episode. I hope you'll stick around for the next one. Until then, everybody, take care.